And it's a good night from him, and it's a good night from me.
Fantastic. So we've got the lovely Sarah Naylor with us again, third time, I think, because the subject of lockdown is important. Specifically in lockdown, it's given us an opportunity to really rethink our lives. I've been speaking to lots and lots of people about what lockdown is giving us, and it's given us a new perspective on maybe the simplicity of life or the ambition of life, dependent on where you're at and what you want to have happen in your life. So lots and lots of people are thinking about what they're going to do next with after lockdown in terms of employment, and that is a serious consideration. So we've been putting together a series of sessions with lovely Sarah Naylor once a week, and discussing that whole issue of what do we do next with our lives, with the 40-ish, 37-ish hours a week that we can offer out into the world for some recompense. What do we do with that? So, Sarah, last time we met, we were talking about, and we had some lovely activities and some great involvement from people, which was wonderful. And we were talking specifically about getting your emotion across, your energy, your passion across for your subject area, for whatever your your employment is, whatever you're offering to the industries out there is. And we had some lovely interaction with lots of lovely people, and today we want to do something slightly differently. So I'm going to hand over to you to describe what we're going to be doing today.
Right. Yes. Thank you, Louise, and welcome and good afternoon, everybody. So what I really want to sort of start to talk about is the key words on your CV, because whether you are aware of it or not, when you are applying for roles, invariably you'll be applying for a job that's being advertised via a job board, and that will be perhaps Reed, CV Library, it could be Indeed, it could be Total, it could be Monster. There's a plethora of job boards out there that are advertising roles, and depending upon the company that's recruiting, or it could be a recruiter recruiting on behalf of an organisation. When you upload your CV, it populates their database. So yes, you'll be applying for the role, but you might or might not be aware, invariably your CV will be added to their database. So there's a lot of things that are really important, both in applying for the role directly and actually also ensuring that your CV does the work for you, so that you potentially will get a role which will manifest itself because you've got the right information on your CV. And this is where the keywords come in. So, for example, if you are a teacher and you just put on you're a teacher, your CV is just going to get lost. It's too vague. It needs to explain and be specific. So are you a primary school teacher? Do you work in a specific sector? Is it private, or is it nursery? Is it secondary? Is it further education? What is it specifically that you do? And are there any additional specialisms or recent training or sectors? It may be that you work special needs. Maybe there are key words that are referencing. When I say key words, I mean words that are internal jargon, or words that are specific to that sector. Words that maybe wouldn't mean anything to me, but to the people that are looking for people like you, it will mean a huge amount. So I think I was referring to this in reverse last week, that if you don't want to be doing what you've done before, you drop those words out, because otherwise you will attract more of the same. So anybody that's aware of the law of attraction and the sort of what you put out, you get back, understanding of it all. And that is what that is very much about. So if you make sure you've got key words on your CV, let me give you another example. If you are working in accounts and you've got payroll experience and you use Sage Payroll, you've done multiple payrolls, you've done bureau payrolls, you've done industry payrolls. it's really important to have all that information on there, and the number of people that you've had on a payroll as well. Because when I flip it round, say for instance, because I recruit as well, if I'm looking for a CV, I want that information to stand out. Because if I'm running a search on a database and I put in payroll, I could have 1,000 CVs to look at. Trust me, it makes your eyes bleed looking at CVs. So you're looking to fine tune it. You're looking to whittle it down to perhaps, I have sort of sat down and filtered through sort of several hundred before, but it is painstaking, and you really want to narrow it down. So I will talk about Boolean searches shortly, but if you've got those keywords on your CV, so if I wanted to find a Sage, an accounts person with Sage and payroll, and I put Sage and payroll, that will come up into my search engine, so I can see that CV straight away. Whereas if you don't even put Sage or payroll on there, and you want a job that's using payroll and you've got Sage experience, I won't see your CV, and neither will an employer. Because if you're applying for a job, and this is, I think there's going to be a huge amount of people looking at job changes over this period of time, especially as things come, we come through and out the other side. We don't know what the landscape is going to look like right now. You've got Amazon recruiting thousands, but you might not want to work for Amazon, the company that you are working for, the organisation you have an affiliation with. They don't know what it's going to look like the other side. But if you can future-proof your CV now and ensure that the details are correct on it, and you can make sure that those job boards, for instance, I say Reed, CV Library, Indeed, wherever you perhaps put it, you might not realise that when you apply for a role, it tends to populate the job board as well. It's good, I've got hair. But on my lip gloss, don't you know? Yeah, I know it's online, but one likes to make an effort. Still there, probably a cat hair. They float in the air. But it's important to get that information on your CV so that you are attracting, because back in the day, before online applications, I'd get mounds of CVs that come in through the post, and you'd sit and you'd be flicking through them. And you've been in HR, haven't you, Louise? It's a long process, and you need to be able to see in a nanosecond really something that jumps out. Yes. Which is why I was talking about getting the information and how to get it onto your CV in last week's discussion. And now we've got that energy, we've got that passion, but ensuring those words that are really attuned with your career and what you want to do. And any recent training that you've had, it may be that you've suddenly been on a course with your existing organisation in some software that's coming out. You might be just what another employer is looking for. You need it to be on your CV, because it's really important. I've just done a lot of recruitment for roles in SAP. That's something that I don't anyway. I was looking for keywords. I didn't understand the roles, but I'm about sort of matching things together. But I understood the keywords that I wanted to see on a CV, so I could then shortlist and then make some preliminary phone calls.
So Sarah, can I ask you, are people recruiting at this moment in time? Is there some activity in the recruitment process at this time?
I'll be honest, in the sector I work in, which is, your bilinguals, customer service and that kind of thing, working within the retail sector, not a huge amount. I've not got anything specific happening. I've got one temp still out. She did 14 and a half hours last week. And that's working in retail. She's bilingual, chasing in debt, funnily enough. So that's why she's, I think, maintained. However, I do know Amazon are, hugely recruiting. There's a knock-on effect that, there are other industries where one door closes, another door will open. It always happens. That's the movement of energy. That is, it's an energy exchange. Things have to shift. It doesn't just stop. It moves on. So this is why it's important to start looking, getting prepared, because things will be different. So, it's also examining what it is that you actually want to do. I have got one client who is actively recruiting, but he's not allowed to use me just yet. It's biding my time. Okay. It's a customer service management with supply chain role, which I'm like,
That's really good. I mean, what you say there is really quite valid, that there are organisations and there are industries that are really going to benefit. So the food industry right now is and the toilet roll industry is going to be in explosion. It's going to be in huge growth at the moment.
That's an unfortunate connection of words, Louise.
I'm sorry. You're quite right. That was a wrong word. You get my drift. You know, if you think about the companies that are making like hand sanitizers, soaps, anything that's about the essentials that we need, that everybody is stocking up madly on in their homes and probably have it for the next 3 years now, those will be the industries that are in great growth. So it's no surprise about Amazon. So there's going to be delivery drivers required. There's going to be every type of function in Amazon that you can imagine. I would imagine that the supermarkets are under huge amounts of pressure at the moment, and so therefore they're going to be wanting distribution. And so everything through the food chain is going to be in growth.
Absolutely. I was going to say that the farmers, I think they're calling out for people to work on the land. And my associate director, who's been working on my recruitment business, he's just trained up as an Asda delivery driver, don't you know?
Well, absolutely.
And he's an ex-Experian director as well. So, he's had senior roles, but he just wanted to do his bit and give back. So he's delivering to vulnerable people. But, so there depends if you're prepared to take a step back from what you normally do, because he deals with employee engagement. That's what he and his business partner do. But there's nothing much happening. So he's doing something that he could do, and you don't know this different sort of things that you can do in the interim. You don't know where that's going to lead and the connections you make because of it.
Yeah. If I can just share with you that my niece's partner, he normally is a person who puts on events, so that he goes to large exhibitions, and he'll put an exhibition stand together, that type of thing, big outdoor concerts and gigs like that. And the first thing that happened to him, even the sniff of coronavirus, was that everything overseas was cancelled. And then, of course, everything was cancelled in the UK. So bless his little heart, what's he doing? He's going out and delivering pie and mash in London to the NHS.
Brilliant.
I know. And what that's given him is he gets out, he's being of service to the frontline staff, frontline workers. He's getting paid for it, which is grand. He's got some money in his pocket, and he's learning about a different type of business that's doing very well, making pie and mash. You think about the wheels of industry and how they work. Pharmaceuticals right now are massive. All the PPE manufacturers, unfortunately, they're probably all in China. We just need more manufacturing in this country, don't we? I think
there's quite a lot of people that I just heard on the radio. I think it was this morning. What was it called? Love Scrubs. Oh, love the woman who makes all the dresses for not Simply Changing. Or Strictly Dancing. Strictly with an S. She's obviously she's not making dresses. She's making loads of scrubs. Love You Scrubs or Love Scrubs or something like that. I've heard it mentioned a few times, but I think there's people set up and you can download patterns, and you can actually make, with fabric and make scrubs and things like that. So I think there's going to be a lot of smaller businesses and a lot of industries that are setting up, certainly in the sort of, all the recycling and upcycling and things like that, which, have been on the cusp of. And I think a lot of smaller businesses, there's one that's just opened in the village last week. It was set to open and they've still opened. And they do all the loose oils and oats, and they've been able to open because they're basically food and produce. So, but it's all loose. You take your containers up and they fill them up. So it's,
the refillables. We were just told in the refillable shop in Wirksworth actually is mobile now, and they've got it all set up. So they go to different places at a different day, and they set their van up, and they have the queues, and then people fill their stuff.
Brilliant. And this is what I'm saying. So it's the people that put the effort in now, whether that's doing something like that, which is brilliant, or just simply taking the time to review yourself, what you want, what you're looking for, what you're passionate about, what you're aligned with, getting your CV into good shape, making sure it's got the right words on it so that it picks up. And we'll talk about the Boolean search in a moment, picks up on the Boolean searches, but equally so that your profiles, Louise has put something on about the making scrubs and face masks.
Ali I think.
But also making sure that your profiles are matching your CV on the likes of LinkedIn or on the job boards themselves. So, you've got to make sure it matches and it mirrors, because that snapshot of information, when you're scrolling through, for instance, Read, you just get a small amount like that before you have to click down. And once you sort of click through, you can only view so many a day. So you're limited. So that's why it needs to stand out. The salary banding, everything needs to be visible and correctly input, because you take the time now to get it right, it will save you a huge amount of time later on. And when things do start to pick up, people will find you. They'll want you.
So if I can just express to everybody that what Sarah Naylor is she's a recruitment consultant. Obviously, she's a brilliant coach as well. So the two go beautifully hand in hand and have their own identity as well. So Sarah will, she will have an organization approach her and say, we have this job, can you do your best to fill it? She will then go to the job boards like Read and Monster, CV Library, Indeed, Total, and so many more. She will go and do those searches on those keywords, and the keywords are the words that she has been fed from the recruiter, from the organization that wants to recruit. So it's important for Sarah to listen to those keywords, and when she puts them into the search, she will get those CVs will come to the surface that have the keywords in that match what the requirement of the organization is. So that's how it's working. So those keywords are really important. So you could have the most beautiful CV in the world, and you might have achieved all the most amazing things in the world, but if you don't have your keywords right, they're not going to come up in the filters. And you know what the internet's like, and there are so many CVs for Sarah to search through that you need to have, your keywords in there specifically. So we were thinking about maybe a little activity, weren't we? We were wondering if you had the job of your dreams. So if everybody who's listening, and can you please play with this, because we had a great time in the last session with your contributions, and it was so useful, so very, very useful. So can you think about the job of your dreams, and can you think about what keywords might be important to the organization of your dreams? So imagine you're applying for a job, and it's the job of your dreams in the organization of your dreams. What would the keywords, what do you imagine the keywords would be? So we thought we'd have a little play. You've got to put your thinking cap on a bit. So what we'd like you to do is pop your keywords in the comments, and then also have a little statement about what you do that incorporates those keywords.
I think Letitia's put a question. Is there a generic keywords for specific jobs that often crop up? I mean, I do quite a bit of accountancy recruitment and bilingual customer service recruitment. So, for instance, in that sector, believe it or not, I mean, I do bilingual, and sometimes people who've got languages don't actually put the language on the CV. And the way I filter it down is like, yes. I look at the surname and go, I wonder if they speak Swedish. It sounds like Lars something Strom. I go, I think he might speak Swedish. So sometimes, literally, that's what I do, because people haven't put on or haven't ticked the boxes that they speak Swedish, they're fluently. So, I want to see something that says, native level Swedish, or at least have ticked the box so that it comes up. But customer service and the words. So if you worked in a store, for instance, and you just put Argos, dealt with customers or something like that. I would want to be looking, I'd want to perhaps do searches on customer service assistant or customer or client or word. So you need to pepper it with that. So if you're a teacher and you're dealing with special needs primary would need to be in there. And I could perhaps put a search in which went teacher or tutor or something else and primary. So I'd have brackets which said teacher or tutor or leader. Or I have to think so much of the time about what words would potentially people use on their CVs. So is it more important than softer skills for key selection? Well, I think your softer skills are good to have on your CV. It's just about making sure that you've got keywords. What sector are you in, Letitia? And I'll have give me that. I can throw it out as an example of what I would be wanting to search on. If you just give me.
And what I'm interested in is what are softer skills? Because if you think about the way that our industries have changed over the years, and I do think we need to get back to manufacturing, please, but our industries have changed over the years. So they are very much about softer skills, because they're about service level provision. They're about knowledge. They're about taking intellectual property, aren't they? They're about taking ideas and bringing them into some product or service. So because we're service led, a lot of those skills are softer skills. So customer service, the ability to negotiate and make decisions, the ability to prioritize. Those are, in my view of things, they're really important. They might be classed as softer skills, but for a manager within an organization, a manager needs those skills. So they're quite hard skills, because they're kind of what you do as a leader or a manager or a supervisor. That, if you are a teacher, we're using teachers as an example. If you are a teacher, then how you manage your classes, how you prioritize your learning, how you are effective as an educator, is that a soft or a hard skill? So it's an interesting, really interesting.
That's a really good experience to have on the CV. But when I'm sort of talking about keywords, I mean, somebody could put all of them. If it's certain sectors, what happens is when you're recruiting, you may have a specific sector. So Letitia said she does procurement, which is brilliant. Okay, so procurement. She's also mentioned stakeholder management, which is fantastic. So, but are there any key areas that you work within procurement? Are you dealing with procurement from overseas, or is it the UK, or is it logistics? Are you dealing with the whole supply chain? Are there particular software? I mean, procurement often incorporates SAP. So I would say, if you've got SAP, get SAP on your CV, because SAP is something
now you know what SAP is.
Do we know what SAP is?
Well, you know what it is now. Letitia will know what it is for sure.
But it's getting those keywords on there, So yes, stakeholder management is a good one to have on there, and procurement. But sector-wise, what sector are you working in? Because there are people who will buy in lingerie, but if it's a manufacturing company doing widgets for the engineering sector, sadly, unless you can weave something into your CV that brings that in there, they're going to be looking for somebody from an engineering background. So that's another key word. So if you are working in the engineering sector, it's worth putting the company name and, next to that, what the company does. So you're bringing in those key words. So you might be working for Harrison Engineering, and so in there you procure Harrison Engineering, engineering manufacturers components of for the mining sector. I don't know, but those are what I'm talking about, keywords. So if somebody from the mining sector was looking for somebody in procurement who manufactured widgets, they would find Letitia's CV by putting in procurement and mining and engineering and Do you see what I'm saying? These are the key words. So HR, professional service, IT. So that's what I think that's what she means. She's procuring, she's buying. So it's professional services, it's IT. So so that procurement. of those sort of service, that level. So yeah, absolutely. So those are the things you would put on there. So, what sectors are perhaps you are procuring those professional services into? Those are key things that I would want to see on the CV, because, from somebody who's perhaps doing the recruitment, it almost, what you do, and the person at the end might be able to understand, might know that company, but there's a whole lot of times where I jump on and go, what does that company do? Are they, and then I jump on and I have to do some Google search, and it's all very time consuming. But, the more obvious you can make it without creating war and peace, the quicker your CV comes to, the quicker a phone call's made. Go, oh my God, that person's got X, Y, and Z, exactly what my client's looking for. That's if you want to work, in a job in that same sector.
Indeed.
Oh, Letitia's very busy.
Letitia, well done. So can we ask everybody to put in the job of your dreams, the title of the job of your dreams? So if you just do that in the comments, that would be great. So the job of my dreams would be, I don't know, czar for coaching in the UK. That might be the job of my dreams. Meet that, please, that expectation. So just think about what the job of your dreams is and pop it into the comments, and let's just see what comes up. Okay, great. So
Letitia, just a quickie, if you want to pop onto my website and book in a call for a free 15 minutes, do so. It's sarahjnaylor.com, and I can have a chat with you about those things if you like.
Does that stand for everybody here, Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got I think about half a dozen calls a week scheduled in on my diary. So if anybody wants to hop on, it's a booking thing. It's just it's a free thing, goes through into Calendly, and it'll book into my diary, and we can have a quick coaching call. So yeah, fire away. And if there's more demand, let me know, and I can open up some more spaces.
Well, what better offer can you have of that? But let's go. Why are you apologising, Letitia? No need to apologise.
All right, Letitia, bring it on. I love it.
Come on, everybody. What are the job of your dreams? What would the job of your dreams, Sarah Naylor, be if you could have anything?
Oh gosh. Well, my bigger picture is very much creating a holistic retreat in South Wales where people can come in and have coaching, and they come in and they'll have an element of coaching, and that will flag up certain things that could either be dealt with through the coaching itself or into some more in-depth NLP or holistic therapies. It will incorporate sort of, meditation classes, yoga classes, have an organic garden. People kind of come for a weekend, couple of weeks, depending on what it is they're wanting to clear energy-wise. So they can come in one end and go out the other in a completely different mindset, all fit, transformed.
So let's have a look at those then. So come on, everybody. We do need your job of your dreams.
Yeah, dream jobs, folks.
Dream jobs.
What's your dream job, Louise? You're doing it, aren't you, really?
Yeah, well, in a way, yeah. But I always think that I've got so massive unfinished business because, of course, I think that I want coaching. I know I want coaching in every school in the land, in every organisation in the land. That's what we are aiming for. So if it were Czar of Coaching UK, I'm just trying to think about, who would I be working for? So that's the job of my dreams. Who would I be working for? And I think I wouldn't want to work for the government. I think it's way too fickle. I would want to work for something like, let me just think of an organisation that I think, something like Virgin, I'd be happy, or Alan Sugar's Empire. I think he would get it. I think he'd understand it, and I think he'd get behind it. So can you think of anybody else that might? So I'm just going to put Virgin down, or Alan Sugar. I'd want to be working for, a private sector organisation because I love private sector organisations. I would like to, or a charitable organisation that's, really kind of rocking it. And that's what I'd want to work for. So what do we imagine would be the key words for a Czar of Coaching in the UK? To go from where we are now, it would be about implementing coaching in every sector within the UK, wouldn't it? So,
Yes,
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you would be putting all the I suppose the key words are sort of coaching, multidisciplines, private sector. So perhaps you could think about maybe it would, the size of the organisation, I think, is where you're coming from as well, aren't you? So you'd be looking at putting in. It sounds like service delivery. People that are organisations that are focused on employee development. I mean, Letitia's used a word here as well. She's put employment resilience, but in staff engagement. I mean, engagement is such a employee engagement is such a hot topic at the moment, and that's where people, companies that are in the private sectors are doing stuff because they want the best out of their staff. They're recognising how important employee engagement is. I've got, say, John, who's my associate director, who's now as the delivery driver. Him and his business partner deliver that. And there's another organisation called Engagement Multiplier, who have developed a software that private sector businesses can buy into, and it gives them a dashboard and it's all anonymous, but that staff can feed into, so they can see where they need to make some changes. But it has to be with, like an owner managed business that is very much like your Alan Sugars or your Virgins, where they want to get the best out of stuff. They want to do what's right. So employee engagement is one of those key words. So that, Louise, would absolutely have to be on your CV. Passionate about employee engagement, passionate about bringing about change, passionate about coaching in the workplace, passionate, So there you've got that energy, that passion, but those key words attached to it.
And it's about it's about cultural change. It's about education, and it's about growth of education, isn't it? So those are the things that just off the top of our head we're starting to think about in terms of, you don't see czars of coaching anywhere. We're kind of making this job up, aren't we? But if we step into it, if we understand what it is that we would want to be doing as a czar of coaching in the UK, then we can second guess what those keywords might be. We can also, is there a way of being able to, if I'm writing my CV for this job, is there a way in which I can Google check somehow what the keywords might be?
Yeah, you can do it. It's amazing. You can Google, Louise. But the other thing I was going to say is you can also step into the shoes, using our wonderful coaching skills, step into the shoes of the person that's doing the recruiting. What do you think they would want to see to attract you to them?
Yeah.
What would you be looking for if you were them? What would you be looking for on a CV? What would stand out? What are those key elements? Not the war and peace stuff, but what are the key things to attract their eye in the first place? What is it? We're not talking about just banging things in for no reason whatsoever, but it's got to be akin to you and and relevant, and what it's just common sense, really. But I mean, Beverly's put one here, intuitive life coach. Well, it depends on who it is you actually want to
intuit,
who your client base is. If you're an intuitive life coach, you want to attract people who are going to be open to sort of spirituality, something holistic. So those words, I would say, would need to be on your CV. Anything that's connected with that holistic, spiritual, law of attraction, those sort of words. It's getting those in, because then somebody would search for coach and intuitive and spiritual, or spiritual, etc. So it's putting those words out so somebody will find you.
And it's who is going to employ an intuitive life coach? So which are the organisations that are going to do that? So which are the spiritually based organisations in the UK? Beverly, can you think of them? So who would we think?
That is going to be next week's topic.
Oh, that's fantastic.
How to find those jobs that you actually want, and to start to drill down and to think about that, because actually, if you then start to identify the organisations you want to work for, you can approach them before they even start advertising, before they even think they've got a vacancy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, I mean, two that spring to mind for me in terms of intuitive life coach might be Hay House,
Yeah.
Louise Hay, organization, and you know the Calm Boys who've put together the app for Calm. It's
Oh,
that,
yes.
you know, it's that kind of, because that's what their job is. Their job is to calm people. It's to be very relaxing. It's the good intention of making a big positive impact on the world. So you are going to find spiritually based organizations, and spiritually based small and large organizations.
Absolutely. And it's just about identifying what it is and then looking what's within your area and starting to be aware and keep your eyes open. And once you're identified it, things will appear. They manifest.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's, I'm just thinking about it. There's a thing, positive news, isn't there? You know, the antidote to the normal news that we hear. Positive news is all about positive stories. So if you go into any sort of natural health shop, they should be selling positive news. I'm assuming it's still going, and I hope it is still going. But it's those kind, you know, so there is something for everyone, and there's an outlet organisationally for everyone.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. There's always an organisation aligned with your talents and your passions. There's always something. It's just about really identifying what it is you want to do,
yeah,
then reflecting that on your CV, but ensuring that it has, you know, you've got structure to your CV, but those words are in there. And equally, like we said last week, anything that you don't want to do, make sure it's not on your CV. You know, because I've just been having this conversation with my son who's just been updating his CV.
yes.
And, you know, not that he wants to listen to me, so don't. It says, oh, no, I'm all right, Mum. Well, look, what is it you're going to be applying for? And it's like I'm batted away like a fly. So anyway, do you know what? You got it on your doorstep, don't use it. What do I know? 32 years in recruitment and 11 is, how long is it? 8 years as a coach? No, nothing. Forget it. No, actually, I'm being a bit mean. He does listen, and it's quite interesting. He has been so industrious doing his own, because he's got his own skate clothing brand, Honest. So he's been doing brilliantly. So I'm being a bit mean, but it's felt like that.
I love it. I love his branding. We've seen that. If anybody wants to see his branding, go to Sarah Naylor's page, because there's a post on there. And it's great. Honest. What a brilliant name for a business, and how brave, actually, but how cool as well. So
Thank you, Louise.
And there's not a lot you can do about the fact that you are his mum. He'll be ready when he's ready. He'll be ready when he's ready.
You know, it's funny though. I'm beginning to recognise that he has heard a few things and he is taking note. But you know, didn't want any help with his CV.
Very good, very good. Well,
so
I think
anybody else got any?
You've got,
what did Letitia say there? Office 365 has a CV creator tool. Gives examples. Yeah, I mean the thing is, there's lots of things when you jump on the internet, like we were just saying with Google. You know, what keywords should I put? It's amazing what's out there. But you know, you can Google and you can have a look and just see. But just think about, it's about you and what you want to do, what you enjoy doing, and if you've got particular software or skills or sector, making sure that is actually on your CV, because you know people don't know the name of your organisation if you're applying from one to another, unless they're a competitor. They might not know. Or you know, if it is a manufacturing company and you're applying for another job within manufacturing, trust me, like let's go back to the accountants, because I recruit accountants. You know, there are companies that won't want people who've worked in costings in manufacturing. You know, an accountant who's done costings in manufacturing. They don't want an accountant that's done costings in just labour costings. They want to know that somebody can cost up how much something is going to cost to actually manufacture, and however much an accountant will say. But you know, accounts are accounts. Companies may have had their hands burnt before. They want someone who's got specific skills and experience, and if you've got those but they're not on your CV, you're not going to get flagged up. So the intuitive life coach, going back to Beverly, if that's what if you work intuitively, perhaps you've had training with some of the best people, the intuitives over the world, been reading Doris Stokes since you're a child, you know, And I just love Doris Stokes' books; they were great. But if you use specific tools, if you also incorporate maybe the tarot, or you perhaps Paul McKenna. I love havening. I think that's great. So all of these things, because it's what you've got. If you've got those extra bits that you can bring into being an intuitive life coach, or examples of how you've worked intuitively. But yeah, it could be intuitive, and you've got intuitively as well. So you've got the two versions of the word, and intuition. So there's three ways of putting that word in. But equally so, if it's intuitive, I think maximum 3 times. I know certainly when I'm writing job ads, I mustn't put in the same word more than 5 times, because then Google doesn't like that either, but any less. So it's where it will put my job in the rankings, which will be the same way it will be doing with people's CVs as well. So if I'm wanting to attract an accountant with costings experience, I will say cost accountant required, and then underneath it will go experienced cost accountant required for cost accounting role for the business in manufacturing. Cost accounting experience absolutely vital. So you must be a cost accountant. So it's getting that sort of flavour through your CV. So intuitive, I don't know, your profile, you'd have intuitive life coach, working intuitively with a range of a wide-ranging client base who, within the holistic sector, say, for instance, and then sort of going down to your job, it would be, 2007 to present intuitive life coach. For years, I worked intuitively dealing with and channeling. There's another word, you're channeling. You're speaking to the higher levels of awareness, vibrational frequency, all those kind of words. That's what you pepper your CV with, so that people know that you're on the same page or on the same wavelength, same channel, same. You're tuned in. The vibrational frequency is there.
And this all sounds like it's beginning to make sense. So one of the things that you said last time was that a CV should be about 2 or 3 pages long. Mm-hmm. Let's say you're as old as I am, and you've kind of worked since you were 15, which I have. And so there's an awful lot of experience to put in there. How do you make a value judgment about what jobs to leave out, or where do you start, and where do you start, and what do you leave in? Just sorry, my battery's about to run out. Hang on.
Oh no! Plug yourself in.
Right.
Well, it's about grouping it together. I mean, let's just use Fred's CV quickly as an example. He said, I've taken off the doing the bit of waiting at the golf club, which he did about 3 times. But at the time, when he was creating a CV, to have it on was important. Well, now, that it means nothing, unless you, nobody, as you're getting a little bit older, wants to know that you've run a paper round. But if it's, if you're looking for your first job, the fact that you can show you've been active and actually working from an early age, that's really, really important. But you could perhaps do, Louise, you'd have simply changing as the bulk on the front page, and then the next page, perhaps the last 2 or 3 key roles that you maybe had, and then prior to that, you can group it all together and just have a sentence saying, having left school, work within different sort of sectors, and if there are sectors that might be relevant, doing certain things, you can mention them by name, but you certainly don't need to go down into minute detail. You can just get it into a paragraph, and it's like people who tempt. If they put every single temp role on the CV, it's kind of really off-putting, because companies go, oh my God, job hopper. But actually, do you know what? If you group it together and you go 2007 to 2017, undertaking a wide range of long and short-term temporary assignments to include, and perhaps put some of the ones that were 6 to 9 months or what have you, just as a snapshot, people won't think anything of it. But actually, they'll just go, oh, that's what they were doing during that time frame. They won't go, oh, job hopper, because you've made it into one job. Do you see what I'm saying? You've framed it, and you've explained what you're doing. But equally so, don't put things on like, I'm a really hard worker, and I, but you've not worked for 20 years. which those CVs are, because there's a lot of people that work their CVs. I know it sounds really mean, but there are a lot of CVs out there that clearly have been put out there to tick boxes to say that they're applying for jobs, but they quite clearly don't want a job because of the way they've been written. So,
okay, so this is a good
facetious, but it's very true.
Sarah, this is a good point. So what if, because there's a lot of ladies, we're all ladies here making comments at the moment, so I can say that is a fact. And what happens if there are sort of gaps in working history, for bringing up children, or for taking some time out to look after family, or to care for elderly parents, or whatever it might be, for women and for men, actually. I don't know why I said ladies. Ignore that point.
With that, again, it's just putting a disclaimer maybe in the profile, or at the bottom of the CV, or just at the top before you go into the, any gaps in employment have related to raising a family, looking after it, elderly parents, etc., and so on and so forth. So probably in a profile, actually. So it could be returning to work after a period of time away. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but basically you can allude to it, but I wouldn't fill every single gap with what you were specifically doing during that time frame, because that could be, you can explain that in more detail. But every time you put in another break, it looks and a line to sort of say what you're doing, it kind of adds mentally as you're skimming through it. The person who's reading it's brain's sort of seeing lots of different jobs, which it isn't. But if you've already sort of said, any time between roles has been sort of raising a family, or caring for elderly parents, or time off in hospital recuperating from an accident, or things like that. Because if you've got that, when I speak to people and I do telephone interviews, I will fill in the gaps if there are gaps. And can I just say to people, check your dates on your CV as well, please, because quite often people will leave and they forget to check the CV and the dates. Get somebody else to check them. Just go through at the time, a tooth comb, because there's so many dates that can be. You get used to doing your own stuff, and then the dates are all wrong, and you've changed something, you've not gone through it again, and it's attention to detail, because sometimes it can just. I've had CVs that look like people haven't worked for years, and actually, it's just that it's been a typo basically, and they've forgotten to update the CV. So once you've created a CV, it's good to keep it up to date all the time as well, But again, and if you have got a job, take your CV off or close your profile down on the job boards too.
Yeah. So Letitia has said, I think you've answered this question, and maybe this question came up before you answered the question about temporary contracting. So just to reiterate, if somebody has done a lot of temporary contracting, is there an argument to say it depends on how long the contract was for as to whether you give it prominence, or whether you group?
I would say so. I would say so. I mean, I think if you've done a contract that's 6 months long, I think, and it's something that's been a bit meaty, you're clearly going to want to put a bit of detail on there, because there's going to be some key stuff on there. Or it may be that you've just done something for a week that's given you a skill that's been brilliant, that it's very transferable, and it's quite niche. It's you had training on some system that's just coming out. It's going to be worth mentioning that. But again, group it together. So if you've had like sort of the last 10 or 15 years temping, put that clause in, but then just pull out those key roles, ones that are going to be very, very relevant, because it makes you look, it just dresses it, it frames it, it gives a better appearance, rather than lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of lines, which is great, because obviously it shows that you're really adaptable, you're really flexible, and maybe that's something you can put in the profile, adaptable, adaptable, quick learner, able to move from one assignment to another, hit the ground running, all these kind of key things, those phrases, particularly if companies are looking for temporary workers, somebody that can come in and do that and is going to commit, because quite often people can go into temp assignments and then they'll drop out of it because they've been offered a permanent role. But people like Letitia, good temps that are committed, for people that do a lot, for agencies that have temporary work, to show that they do commit and see the assignment through is brilliant. So it's making sure that you present yourself in the right way. But yeah, that would be my suggestion.
And there's always that wonderful positive, because for a person who has a CV full of temporary assignments, there's a great skill in being able to walk into an organization, to pick a job up, to be effective within it, and then to let it go and move on to the next organization. It shows a huge amount of skill, particularly in this world where we need people to drop in and pick up a problem, or and resolve something within an organization. So there's huge amounts of strength in that kind of CV experience. Now, it is telling me that there's more messages below, and I can't quite see them. So forgive me if they're not always rolling up quite as fast as we would want them to. The last one I can see is Letitia talking about Jacob, and I don't know if there's another one from there. So there's this slight delay in the broadband. So I've got a huge amount from this, actually, Sarah. I think this is really, really hugely useful to we as coaches who are going to be working with other people who are going to be thinking about their employment history. For us as individuals, if we're thinking about going out there and getting some part-time or full-time employment, particularly in the coaching field, or whatever it is that you choose to do, I think you're illuminating the process of coaching so that actually we meet the requirements of what's happening, because technology has come on in leaps and bounds, and it drives everything now. What used to happen, as you mentioned at the beginning, Sarah, was that you'd have a job in an organization, you would then you'd set aside a day or two for shortlisting. Do you remember? And then you'd go through all the paper applications like this, and you'd be sifting and skimming for the things that pop out at you. And then, sorry, with one of those, yes, indeed.
Oh yes, they've got that.
Yeah, and it was a really manual process, wasn't it? And now what you're able to do in a heartbeat is to put those keywords in, and so your CV is no longer, it's no longer as it used to be. So those keywords are very, very important. Just like we have hashtags on Twitter, just like we would have hashtags on Facebook and Instagram and so on. Those, thinking about what are the key words for anybody picking this up. If you've got a post that you want to put out, putting those hashtags on, it's just a reminder for me, really, to put hashtags on our postings, those key words and the key phrases.
Yeah, it's also just, I know we're running short, getting towards an hour, but one thing I would say for those of you who obviously are in professional roles, make sure your LinkedIn profiles, up to date, and it really reflects you. Once you've looked at your CV and you've got that all straight, and you've made sure your profiles on the job boards marry and meet, and then all the contact details are the same. And if you go onto Indeed, try and get your own email on there and make sure that the information goes on, because Indeed chops loads of information off and gives you an Indeed email that you probably never even know you've got and you won't be able to access. But LinkedIn I need to personally understand and learn and use LinkedIn a lot more than I actually do. I've got hundreds of connections on there. Maybe, I don't know, people connect all the time. But if you're on there, people will find you. There's a lot of recruiters that use LinkedIn Recruiter to find people as well, and to connect. And again, it's about having a nice photograph of yourself, a professional one. And when I say professional, I don't mean you've got to go out and spend several £100s having a decent photograph, having a photograph taken. I just mean a nice one, not used sort of. Hello, that's a great party.
Or something. Yeah,
you'd be surprised. But having a professional photograph and, a snapshot, it's your real estate, it's your opportunity to put who you are and what you do, and to get that information across. So it's your sort of profile, and make sure that sort of matches and mirrors your, your CV. So all the dates and everything like that is the same. So because when you start to get differences, and the dates don't match up, make sure everything's, matches.
Okay, brilliant. So, Sarah, what are we going to talk about next time then?
We are going to talk about how you can identify organisations to work for, the ones that would be, you know, like we just touched on today, how you can actually start to look and start to identify the right organisation for you, where it is that you do want to go. So, you know, you understand who you are, you kind of got to grips with what you need to put on your CV in terms of getting that sort of energy and that emotion and that personality across. And we've discussed about the key words, but now it's very much about taking action and what can you do proactively in terms of contacting or finding or identifying the right organisation, you know, your dream organisation to work for, as you were beautifully describing about working for Alan Sugar or you know, the Virgin organisation. It's looking at people who hold the same values, isn't it? Hold the same values, the same belief system. So you're working with people that are like-minded, and you're not sort of suddenly launching yourself into some organisation. And there's some dreadful ones out there, sadly. You know, I was listening to Jeremy Vine's show last week. You know, they were obviously ringing up talking about sort of the whole coronavirus thing and employment, etc., and so on and so forth. And there was this organisation with, you know, 2 directors, and one of them coming in coughing and cutting all over people and not letting people take time off because they're just no understanding, no compassion, and just obviously completely money driven and wanting to keep their business up running, with no due care or attention to anybody's health, well-being or otherwise. So, you know, anybody that's on this call right now, on this live right now, I would imagine would want to work for, you know, an organisation that has more compassion, so, you know, and more understanding, and, you know, so it's looking at that, and then it's looking at, you know, the organisations within the local area or what distance or wherever, or you can work from home. So let's look at all of that next week.
All right, that sounds absolutely amazing. What I would like to say also is to come back. It'll be 2 or 3 o'clock next Tuesday afternoon. We're just trying to work out broadband widths. This morning was an absolute no-show at 11:30. We just think everybody was on the internet. It was awful. So apologies to Jane Dickens, and please do come tomorrow morning, because Jane will be with us tomorrow morning, and she's got a lot to say about under fives. This that we're providing here is not just a resource for you as individuals. Please just spread it out widely so that people can come. If you've got coachees and they're working on recruitment, then these are the, you know, point them in the direction of this, because you'll then be able to have a great coaching session based on, you know, what was Sarah saying and what have you done and how did it resonate with you and what are your key words and how are you bringing your passion to the table. So you can use these as models so that you can coach really effectively. So please point your coachees here, because this resource is free, gratis, and for nothing, and you can bounce off it. You can use it, and you can use it with your coaches. So I would say that if you've got parents, I'm hearing a lot, an awful. If you've got parents, if you are parents or you know people who are parents, I know from what I am hearing multiple times a day from many different sources that people are struggling right now with the homeschooling. They're struggling with having children 24/7. They are struggling with the restrictions of not being able to, you know, go out and share responsibility across. If we didn't have lockdown, but all the schools were closed, we'd have groups of parents who were taking their kids on adventures and looking after children in groups, and there would be all sorts of support, but we're not allowed to do that because we're on lockdown. Parents are not seeing their children are not seeing their grandparents. Their structure has completely changed. There's no nursery, there's no school, they're not able to see their friends, their wider family members. There is so much that's impacting on children, and we're doing our level best here. So please come along. Please send your family and friends and everyone so that we can discuss it. What I also have said is that there's a question down there in the feed on Facebook. If you are interested in us having an unstructured, unthemed discussion at like 9 o'clock at night, I'm up for that. So I'm up for hosting that, so long as we've got something to discuss. So please bring along your coaches, your family members, anyone who's kind of struggling with any aspect of lockdown, any aspect of the financial implications, the health implications, the fear that's appearing in people's lives, the frustrations, the kind of the moments of like, oh my goodness, they're watching the news or whatever. So whatever is sparking off people's tensions and anxieties and worries, or even if they want to contribute something positively to it, let me know if that would be useful, because I'm very, very happy to kind of funnel that and host that. And we're up for it. We're trying to do as much as we can to point people in this direction, because when you look down there at the recordings, you'll see some amazing resources appearing for you every day. So Sarah, 2 or 3 o'clock next Tuesday for more career development through lockdown. Yeah,
absolutely. And I just would like to repeat my offer. If anybody wants to just hop onto my, I don't know whether you could just put my website, or I'll put it in the post later, a link to my website. But if anybody wants just to book in a free 15-minute call and have a chat, please do so. I'd be delighted to have a chat about your CV career or whatever.
Fantastic. Sarah, many thanks for your time. I know that
it's been wonderful. You know me, I love talking.
Well, you run your own business. You've got your own lockdown process that you're going through. We really appreciate it. I know that you're working really hard on your own business as well, and on your coaching to support other people. So thank you so much for everything that you're offering us here at Changing.
And thank you. And bye everybody. Thank you for interacting. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Take care.